How are you doing? This is Realtor Pamela Lewis, broker of realty executives and team lead for Team McKinney. Hey! Thank you so much for coming back to check out my channel. If this is your first time checking me out, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you for checking out my channel. Hopefully you love it, and if you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell so you'll get notification of every time I have a new video that comes out. So this episode is going to be broken out into two series. And the reason why I'm breaking it out into two series because it's a lot of information. So I want you to be able to digest half of the information and then come back the next week and I'll give you some more information. If in between you have any questions, hit me up. Look down in the comments. My contact information is there. My phone number is there. My email address. And I probably said that twice, but hey, sorry about that. So this episode, or this two-part series of episodes, is called The Secret Tips of Writing an Offer in This Current Market. And I'm doing this series because I'm in the grind right now, just like you are, or maybe you're thinking about buying a house and you're trying to figure out what's going on with the market. Well, there's a lot going on. And so I wanted to break it down with the different types of offers that you could be writing to try to win above anybody else. All right, so wait for it. That you can write on any home in our area, and I think anywhere else, it's just your standard offer. You're offering the seller, the purchase price, when you're going to close. So, and you're also asking for closing costs. That's your standard offer. Is that going to win you every time? No, not in this current market. So, what you need to find out, if you are only able to write that standard offer, and that's that purchase price, asking for closing costs, doing a home inspection, is you need to find out how long the house has been on the market, if the house has any issues. Because most of us will tell you right now, most sellers are not going to pay your closing costs. But there are a few homes out there in the market where the sellers would. Typically, it's going to be houses that have very unique layouts that will not, that most buyers wouldn't be able to purchase. Or the property could need some repairs and maybe the seller just is not going to do any of those repairs, and so they're willing to put money out in closing costs. We've had that happen for a couple of clients in the past, I would say 60 days. So that could work for you too. So that's going to be your standard offer. So the killer secret, or the secret killer notes to know on the standard offer is you got to know what's going on with the seller and what they're thinking. So you got to get your agent to find that out, and you got to find out how long it's been on the market and if it needs any repairs. If it does, the seller may consider paying closing costs because not everybody would be able to purchase it except for an investor. And an investor most likely is not going to pay the sales price for the home unless it's marked accordingly to where it should be purchased for an investment property. All right, so I hope that helps you out. Next offer we're going to talk about, it's called the escalating offer. So you're thinking, Pamela, Realtor Pamela Lewis, what is an escalating offer? Well, an escalating offer is a sweet way a technique we used to use back in the day when the market was just as hot as it is now. And it could work for you too. So most of the time you are going to be competing against other buyers for a home. Whether you were told, hey, there's no contracts on it, yeah, it's a law of attraction. There will be other buyers that are going to be putting offers on. It's just the way it goes, especially in this market with inventory being down compared to how many buyers are out there in the market. So the escalating offer, how that works, and the secret killer tip on that is you as a buyer got to know how high you can go for your mortgage, right? So we're going to take $300,000 as an example. So let's say the house is priced at $300,000. Well, buyer, you got to know how high you could go to purchase a home. Maybe you can go as much as $315,000. Well, the second piece you got to know, secret tip, killer secret tip is you got to get your agent to give you a prediction on what the house is going to appraise for in, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks, right? The market is in a uptick. So whatever closes 3 weeks ago is most likely going to close for more money 3 weeks later because the market is in an uptick. So you got to know those two pieces of information is, one, how high can you go? Two, how high can the house appraise for? So an escalating offer would be that you would offer the seller, let's say, $300,000, but that you would escalate your offer buyer by however many dollars. Let's say that if you knew other buyers were coming in, and let's say you could go up to $315,000, and you know that house could appraise, let's say, for $315,000 or even $310,000, because you're gambling that the house would appraise for more money. What you would do is you would offer the seller the $300,000, but you would put a caveat in there. The caveat would be that your price would escalate over another competing offer for a certain dollar amount. So let's just say you want to pick $500. I could have picked $1, I could have picked a penny, I could have picked $100, but you want to really compete. You really want to feel like you're giving the seller some type of money. So I'm going to choose $500. That doesn't mean you have to choose $500. You could pick any dollar amount you want. You could have picked $1,000, you could have picked $2,000. But for this example, I'm using $500. So your contract would write, seller, I'm going to give you $300,000, but in the event another competing offer comes in, my offer will escalate $500 over that competing offer, not to exceed $315,000, because that's the most you could do for your loan, right? You can't go higher than what your lender is going to give you, unless, buyer, you're going to put cash on that towards the closing. And you also want to make sure the house can appraise for. So there's no point of giving somebody $315,000 or offering it. Well, you could, if you know the house is only valued at $300,000. So that's the tricky part, because the listing agent is going to advise the client too. Hey, Mr. Seller, I know they gave you $315,000, but I think this house is only going to appraise for $300,000. So your buyer's agent is going to actually need to have a conversation with the listing agent. And it's kind of tough because you don't want your buyer's agent going in there like, hey, listing agent, I know more than you. You kind of want to make sure you're coming in as a friend and saying, hey, I think your list price is good, but I really think the couple houses down the street is going to drive your price up. And let me show you how, right? So it's more like working together. So an escalated offer is really good if you don't think the seller is going to do highest and best. And from what I can see from the seat I'm sitting in, most sellers are looking at the offers and just saying, hey, whoever put their best offer in first, that's what I want to go for. Sometimes sellers don't really have a stomach for doing competing offers. Some agents don't really believe in that too. You know, you do kind of drive the price up if you say, hey, tomorrow at 5, you got to put your highest and best offer in. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. A lot of time foreclosures, banks will do that because they're not people, they're entities, right? So yeah, they want the most they can out of the house. People sometimes just don't have a stomach for it, and it gets overwhelming for sellers and also too for listing agents to have multiple offers come on the property. I mean, it's a lot of personalities you have to deal with. That are calling you and asking you questions. So make sure you're putting your highest and best. And one of the ways you can compete with other buyers is to do an escalating offer. The next one that I call, it's called the puffed offer. And I coined that myself. And let me tell you what the puffed offer is. Puff offer sometimes works because you don't know what the seller is. Now, this really works for a seller that's kind of a gambler. So a puffed offer, or also not just a gambler, but somebody that likes to live on the edge, because like I said before, the market is in an upswing right now. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a hold on what the real values of homes are. And what's really driving up these values of homes is, one, you got your interest rates that are pretty low. They're decent interest rates. And two, you have the market demand. There are quite a few sellers who are just not going on the market, or people are just saying, hey, I'm going to hunker down while we're getting through this Corona-19. So what I call is the puffed offer. The puffed offer sometimes does work, especially if you still need closing costs. You know, it's tough right now to try to get at home still needing closing costs. Not saying it doesn't work, but One way it could work is if you say, hey, I need X amount of dollars in closing costs. Let's take $5,000 for example. Let's say you need $5,000 in closing costs. And I'm saying 5,000 compared to what else? Let's just say you need 10,000 in closing, or let's say you were doing a $300,000 house. So let's say we need 9,000 in closing costs. Let's say you only have 4 and you need to get 5,000 for closing costs to be able to close. So how the puff offered works is if you take the 300,000 and let's just say you offer the seller $305,000. So you're saying, hey seller, I'm gonna give you what you want, but I need something back too, which I needed my closing costs back. So you could offer the seller $305,000. So it looks like the seller's not having to come out their pocket for closing costs. You in turn are gonna have a loan for $305,000 versus $300,000, which, you know, we say every $10,000, it's about, let's say your interest rate's 3%, it's roughly going to be about $30. So you're saying, buyer, that your mortgage is going to be about $15 more than what you were expecting. Might be worth it to you if this is like the home for you. And it might be worth it to you if you think $15 is not much. You know, I believe every dollar means something to someone, right? So you got to make a decision. Now, so what I call the puff offer is offering that over the list price. So your buyer's agent is also going to need to look and say, hey, do they think this house is going to appraise for more? So because your buyer's agent is also going to need to talk to the listing agent and have a discussion about the price. Because when your price comes in higher than what they list for and you're not offering any cash over that, you're going on the appraisal appraising for more. Does it happen all the time? No. I've seen stories where houses are actually appraising for less than what they're listed for. Has not happened to me. Whew, I'm so glad it hasn't. But I've heard stories in other realtor networks I'm a part of, or real estate agent networks, because not everybody's a realtor. We'll go into a video about that later on. I am, though. But there's other networks I'm a part of that not everybody's a realtor. They talk about houses appraising for less than what they have on their contract or what they have it listed for. So it can happen. You know, depending on if the listing agent is seasoned or not, you know, most of us who are seasoned, the question we always come up with is when the house is puffed, more money is added to the list price is, hey, where's this extra money coming from if it doesn't appraise for? So you have to know that answer. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, if the house doesn't appraise for, do you have that extra money for closing costs? Most likely you do not. And if that question is asked up front, that's because an agent is seasoned and they know what could happen if the house does not appraise for. So, does that work all the time? Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on who's on the other side of the table and if they're willing to take that gamble. I've had a couple of properties now that have just appraised for a lot more money than where it should have, what we had it listed for, and it's because the market demand, the appraiser was willing to go outside the neighborhood for the value. We don't control who appraises the property. We don't control the appraiser on what comps they pick, even though we could say, hey, appraiser, here's some comps. Take a look at, see if you can use them for your report. So that could happen also. So that is the puffed offer. The next I call is the clean offer. Now, this offer I think is pretty much winning a lot of the bids that are out here. And, you know, from what I can see and from my listings, you know, typically if a house goes on the market, you're getting anywhere between 3 to 7 offers. So what an average is about 4.5, 5 offers per property. So what I call is the clean offer. This is where most buyers want to come in when they're ready to buy. And I understand if you can't come in this way, hey, it is what it is. You got to keep riding that tide. But a clean offer is you offering the purchase price to the seller. So you're saying, hey, seller, I love your house, and I'm going to give you what you want for your house. And plus, your agent is also checked to make sure the house is worth that too, right? But it's clean. You got no closing costs because you're going to come in, buyer, and pay your own closing costs because the market has just shifted. You're going to close as soon as you can. Most lenders need 30 days. There are some lenders who will need less that are in the market. So make sure, you know, depending on who you use. Some loans are going to need 45 days. So you're essentially going to try to give the seller a clean offer, which would be purchase price, no closing costs, close 30 days. You're going to do a home inspection, but you're going to do the home inspection quickly. You're not going to say 10 days. You're going to try to tighten it up to 5 or 7 days. To me, that would what would be considered a clean offer. That was a wrap up for the first series of the secret tips of writing killer offers in this market. Wait till next week. We're going to come out with 4 more tips to let you know, buyers, how you can win on competing against other buyers. All right, make sure you give me a thumbs up if you love this video. If you didn't love this video, comment, let me know too. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you. Make sure you email me, text me, call me, SOS me, whatever you have to do. I want to make sure that you're enjoying your home buying experience or getting excited about now getting ready to buy a home. And I would love to chat with you. So make sure you contact me. Have a great day. You deserve it.